Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Autism Hope Library. I am really excited of our next guest. You might have seen past interviews with this company and even with her, but today we're going to be talking about something that's so near and dear to my heart. We're going to be talking about the benefits of why auditory processing affects safety, comfort, and connections. Today, I have Mandy Doman with Advanced Brain Technologies, and we are just so happy to have you here. Welcome, Mandy.
Thank you so much, Kristen. It's such a pleasure to be back with you and to be able to share our work with your families and just the important work that you're doing. We just so appreciate everything that you do.
Well, I love this topic. We were talking before we started this interview. I think this topic is so crucial for so many families out there. So many of our families, I think majority of them have some type of auditory processing, sensitivity issue, whatever we're going to call it, right? Which does affect safety, comfort, and connections. So let's talk about, first of all, what is the listening program? Obviously, I know you know, but so many people out there still don't know. You might have heard it be called the listening program or TLP. TLP is just short for the listening program, but can you explain what TLP is?
Yes, absolutely. So the listening program is a neuroscience-based music listening therapy. And it's going to involve listening to beautiful classical or world style music, following a very specific and structured protocol so that it is essentially brain training. And what the program is going to be doing is moving through different levels of training to affect different areas of function. So throughout the course of using the listening program, we're looking for 15 to 30 minutes, 5 days in a row. We want you to take a 2 day break so the brain can rest and integrate and get prepared for the next week to come. A typical protocol will last between 5 to 10 months, and many people actually want to continue using it for years, myself included. So the listening program really is a way to improve the way our brain is processing information. It's helping us to better regulate our emotions. It's improving our executive functioning. And it's also helping us to better connect to the world around us and to the people who we really care about. So we've been really excited. It has been a program that has been around for 25 years. There is tremendous research and evidence to support its use for a range of needs. And we've really been excited about the kinds of changes that we see in particular with individuals on the autism spectrum. Whether they are 2 or 99, the program really does have influence for people of all ages with a range of needs. So we definitely see it in a multitude of clinics, hospitals, schools around the world, kids who are sound sensitive, kids who are having trouble expressing their thoughts or learning. So those are some of the applications for it. But essentially, the listening program, again, is a music listening therapy.
And the music with that, as I know, is beautiful classical music. So those people listening or watching right now, you have to understand when you put these headphones on, it's the most beautiful music. It's not like super loud. Like before I learned about the listening program, we had tried other auditory processing, techniques of music. And I remember going to one, I don't remember what it was called, but I remember it was very hard on the ears. It was like this, like almost like a rock and roll of some sort. And it had like loud noises in between. And they had him on this table. It was like so bizarre. As a parent, we try everything, right? And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I remember when I first met you guys, gosh, I guess almost 20 years ago, right? I remember like listening to the music myself for the first time and just feeling so relaxed, feeling more organized in my brain and realizing like, okay, this is classical music. I know you guys did all this fun, cool stuff. Like I don't know all the science behind it, but I know you guys have done all this amazing thing to make it so it does something different in our brain, which I know we'll talk about maybe a little bit, but it's something for parents to understand. It's not scary. Um, it's not going to hurt your ears. It's not going to feel like you're, going to feel overwhelmed by any means. And so I think that's really crucial when people hear the listening program. What does that mean? What does that look like? It's literally headphones with um, this beautiful classical music that you guys have made And I tell you, my son loves classical music now. Like we literally, even with like we still do the listening program. We love it. We're one of those lifers. However, when we're in the car sometimes, what I've noticed because of the listening program, we'll have the radio on and he prefers to have classical music on in the car. And I think that like speaks volumes to see where we were started to where we've come. And it's very relaxing in the car listening to classical music. And it's not your guys, it's just whatever's on the radio. So I want to make sure to let families know because I do get questions like, is it going to hurt their ears? Is it, what does it sound like? And I think it's important for everybody listening and watching to know it's classical music. It's beautiful. And the way you guys have done it is just amazing. So anyways, I wanted to make sure I said that. So let's talk about how does TLP specifically help individuals with autism?
Yes. So as far as, the use of the listening program, one of the things that is so crucial for you to understand is that our auditory system is always on when we're asleep, when we're trying to focus, whatever it may be, our auditory sense is really active all of the time. But one of the things that happens is that if we are feeling unsafe, it actually impairs our ability to be good listeners. When we feel unsafe, we actually become a bit hypervigilant. And so that means we're scanning our environment. We are kind of outside of ourselves and unable to really focus. And so the sense of safety, I think, is a really big one for a lot of the families that we work with, because they notice that there are certain things that in the environment that trigger their child, that pulls them out of that sense of being safe. So it can be sound for sure. If we think about going into a new environment, we see so many kids covering their ears, even if there isn't necessarily even a big sound in the environment, but maybe they're even anticipating a sound. And what happens is that if we feel that sense of being unsafe in our auditory environment, we're shutting down what's coming in, we're actually getting into a state of fight or flight, right? And so then that triggers a whole other cascade of effects that happen within the brain and the body. There's physiological responses. We definitely sense that our child wants to run, wants to get out of that environment. And the brain and body should be able to self regulate. If our child goes to a birthday party and there's a lot of things going on in the environment, that's supposed to be fun. Our child should really want to be there and want to be involved. But if it creates that feeling of being unsafe and unpredictable, we're going to see behaviors, we're going to see outbursts, we're going to see those fight or flight responses. So one of the things in particular that we really have enjoyed witnessing over these years is that ability to retrain the auditory system and really allow the nervous system to be in a state of homeostasis. That's where we can really enjoy our environment, connect to other people, feel that sense of comfort. So the auditory system, the sense of our safety really is pretty profound. So if we can get your child into a place where they can go to these different environments and be able to be attuned to what's going on, recognize how they're showing up, even how they're communicating to other people. I think a lot of that is inhibited when we don't feel safe. And so our ability to think outside of the box and to be present and to learn all really rely on our ability to be safe. And so that's where the auditory processing piece comes in. What we're doing with the listening program, and even if your child resist wearing headphones, because that is definitely a concern that a lot of parents have in the beginning. We do want them to be wearing headphones eventually. But don't worry, it sometimes takes a little bit of time. Just keep at it, and eventually they'll get there, and then eventually they'll love it. That's what we see. But what we're finding with auditory processing in particular is that over the course of time, this music is structured, organized sound. And that's what the brain really loves. So we're teaching the brain to learn how to self-regulate, learn how to feel calm and connected and safe. And that happens through music and the very special treatments that Kristen had spoken about, which really help to entrain the brain and body. We use very specific elements of sound And just as an example of that, you're probably already using music in a way that is going to complement different things you're doing in your life. So if you're thinking about, well, what kind of music do you turn to if you're working out? You're going to want peppy, upbeat music with a strong beat, right? So that you can get your body entrained to get up and move and be active. Whereas if you're looking for music that's going to help you to fall asleep or to relax, you're looking for low and slow frequencies that your body can really just sink into and allow itself to become calm, let the stress go. So music does have a profound influence in our life. And so when we're thinking about a child on the autism spectrum or an adult or a caregiver for that matter, anyone who really is looking to improve their overall neurological organization, helping to relieve stress, and really understand how the world is around us so that we can attune and adapt. That is really one of the primary benefits that we see with the listening program. And it happens pretty quickly. A lot of parents say within the first 2 weeks, their child is more focused, they're calmer, they're more attentive, and definitely more present.
Well, and talked a little bit about, caregivers and other people. Who else can the TL or yeah, who else can benefit from using TLP?
Yeah, we see a range of needs. So definitely we work with a number of occupational therapists, speech and language pathologists, educators, doctors. And so when I think about, when we're helping people get started, probably the largest reason that people come to us is to help a child or an adult on the autism spectrum. But besides that, we see a lot of individuals that need support with attention and focus. They may have reading challenges or just overall educational needs. We see people with brain injuries use the listening program. Definitely people with sensory processing, especially if they have sound sensitivities. We also have a lot of people who come to us just because there may be a speech delay, and we do see speech begin to develop as people are moving through these programs, because part of what we're doing in the listening program is we're utilizing sound, right, to stimulate the auditory pathways. And one really interesting thing is that the voice can only reproduce what the ear can hear. So by training the auditory system, we are simultaneously training expressive speech. So we have, adults using it because they're stressed. We have seniors using it to help with their memory. So that's the neat thing, is that we think about the auditory system and we all have fun. So we can all certainly benefit from using it.
I love that. I mean, we're living in a world of just, I feel like go, 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 right? Like, I don't know anybody that is not stressed at some point. And I feel like, especially the way the world is, everything's so fast, everything is now, so I think anybody and everybody can benefit from TLP. So let's talk about, how does the program work in terms of the actual training process?
Yeah, so one of the key points that we're doing within the listening program, there are actually 5 very specific things that make the listening program unique in its way of brain training. So we are using 2 types of music, classical music. We have 3 programs that utilize our classical music, and we also have a rhythm-based world style music within the listening program. So there are 4 different programs that we would help a family decide which is going to be the most beneficial for them or their child. And within each program, we do some very specific training elements. One of them that I think is the most crucial, especially for somebody who is kind of over aroused, sensory processing issues, just really needing to help them to become more regulated, is our ABC design. It's basically a warm up, training, and then cool down. As I was explaining in the beginning, when we're over aroused, when we're stressed, our auditory system isn't functioning as well as it should. And so one of the goals with that ABC design is that we want to get somebody into a very relaxed state by listening to beautiful music that doesn't have any treatments in it. So we start them out literally with regular sounding music, and then we slowly bring in the different training elements, and then we pull them all back out. So by the time they're finished with that 15 minutes, they're left integrated into a natural, beautiful sound experience, so that they always have that bookend to integrate, right, and get back into their daily routine instead of staying in that heightened state. So the ABC modular design is one of the training elements that is within every single listening session. The second thing that we're doing is something called filtration. So a filter basically allows us to provide specific frequencies of sound to the auditory system. Sometimes, our brain hears sound from 20 to 20,000 hertz. So there are periods of time where we want all of the sounds to be present so that we can train the full auditory system. And then in other different parts of the program, we move through different levels, and the levels are representing the different sound frequencies. And they're color coded, which is so nice because if you're working with a provider, they're going to ask you, okay, well, what color zone are you in right now? And by simply saying, well, I'm in the green zone, they're going to know what sound frequencies are being presented to you or your child. So we'll just go through those really quickly. So the blue zone represents the full range of frequencies. Then we start with the green zone, and I'm kind of moving through because I like to visualize the keys of a piano. To me, that is the easiest way to kind of understand it. So we think about the keys to the far left, those are low frequencies. We color code those green, and those low frequencies are amazing, especially for kiddos on the autism spectrum. We pretty much want them there the whole time because those low frequencies help us to feel calm and grounded and present and connected to our bodies. When we feel connected to our bodies, it's so much easier for us to feel safe enough to connect with the world around us. And so we see sensory sensitivities begin to improve. Things that really used to upset or set our child off become kind of like no big deal or not as bad. We also find that handwriting gets better. They just seem to be more in control of their physical bodies and how they're responding to the world. We spend a lot of time here in most of the programs. Then we move into our middle range frequencies that represent our speech zone. And what's fascinating is that not only are we helping with speech and language skills, but we're also improving the ability to retain information, help with our focus and attention, and really affect our memory. So we see lots of academic improvements when we're in this part of the program. And then finally, towards the end, and those are orange, by the way. Then when we move up to the very last part of the program, these are our red zone frequencies. They are the highest frequencies that we can hear. They give us energy. They help us to feel motivated. They really improve our mood. We hear about all sorts of things like, my child is finally trying new food. They used to be so afraid or was very avoidant of different experiences. So we do hear about just being more willing to be independent, try things on their own. So those are a really quick synopsis of the sound frequency training. And then another is called audio bursting. So when you're listening in the very middle part of the program, it's going to sound like the volume is turning up and down really quickly. You probably know what I'm talking about, Kristen. But those are little bursts of sound that help to teach our brain to begin to really understand what it's like to actively listen. So that is a very specific training element within the program. And the final one, which I think is really the key to our feeling safe and comfortable in our environment, is our spatial surround training. So when you have those headphones on, you're going to hear individual instruments and the entire composition move around you in a 360-degree field. And the reason that's so important is, if you're feeling hypervigilant, usually it's your sense of what sounds am I hearing in my environment. And if you can't localize sound correctly, it's going to definitely inhibit your ability to feel comfortable. But the biggie as well is thinking about if you're trying to focus and you're being pulled away from every little sound in your environment, there is a way to retrain the brain to help you to filter out those sounds that you're not supposed to be paying attention to, so you can really spend time and focus on the things that you do want to do. So those are some of the training elements of really what makes the listening program so therapeutic in its brain training capacity, and opening up those pathways so that your child can get the best results in their therapies because they're better understanding what the therapist is working on with them, right? They can integrate it more quickly. They're definitely going to understand lessons more meaningfully, and they'll have a better memory so they can actually perform and begin to succeed and build that confidence.
So, real quickly though, before I go on to my next question, with the training process, they're going to be working with a provider that you guys help them find, or when they call, or how does that really work?
Well, we actually offer two ways that you can do the listening program. We always recommend working with a therapist. So we do offer certification courses to professionals so that they can really understand the science and everything that goes in to create an effective program plan for the individual needs of the person that's using the listening program. And so, if you're getting our system, which basically allows you to have access to our full program, you can customize it, it's delivered to you on an iPad, and that therapist or educator is going to be able to design a very specific program based on what your child needs, and they can adapt it over time based on how your child is responding. So, that's always going to be the best way to do the listening program. But we also wanted to really make it very accessible and very affordable and safe and easy to use. So, another way you can get access to the listening program that can be self directed is with an online subscription. We have options that are like $34.95 per month to get access to a 30-day program that follows you and it basically moves through an entire protocol month after month. So we have options. That's one thing I really love about advanced brain technologies is we understand we need to really understand and fit the needs of each family and what they can do. So your options are get a TLP system. You'll always work with a coach if you have a system, or you can get an online subscription and a coach is an option. And we highly encourage you to get a coach, even if you have the online, but it's more of an option.
I love that. You guys have really evolved a lot in the 20 years, and it's great. I feel like you guys kind of move exactly with what the families need, So it's like, it's just amazing. It makes my heart so happy. So can we talk about, this is my favorite question, talk about some success stories or examples of how TLP has made a positive impact on individuals with autism?
Yep. I mean, there's so many that come to mind. The first one that I just think is really pretty tremendous. We had a mom, she has two little girls, twins. They were 2.5 when they started with the listening program. Both of the girls were on the autism spectrum. And she just was so excited to bring this home. And she didn't even have any hesitation about, will my girls listen? She just set up some fun activities. She put the headphones on them. They would hum, they would play, they looked at each other, they made eye contact with her. And within about a 6 month period, both of them had made such profound changes according to their pre and post assessments with their therapist. One of the girls actually was evaluated at the hospital where she received her initial diagnosis. And this was at a very short amount of time, but they said basically she doesn't have the symptoms that basically would give her a diagnosis anymore. That study is very carefully documented on our website. So to me, that was one of them, like these little tiny girls just instantly took to the program, flew through it. It was so heartwarming. And I stayed in pretty close contact with her and the therapist throughout. And these changes that just kept coming in week after week, it just really just goes to show you if you get somebody into a place where they just feel happy and connected and feel even for a 15-minute session, if you can feel really good, that has such a profound impact on the rest of your day and the rest of your interactions. And so I always tell people start first thing in the morning. If you can, start your day with the listening program, get your brain and body ready to experience the day. And that's really what these little girls did. So I hope you'll take a minute, look through. We have so many case reports and research studies on our website to understand who really is using these programs and what they're seeing week over week. So everything's been really carefully documented.
I love that. Now, how can families, I know people are listening and watching, they're like, okay, how can we get started with TLP and what should they expect during the initial stages?
Yep. So when you're getting started with the listening program, you can absolutely get in touch with us. We have people on our team that will absolutely get on the phone with you, answer your questions, really just help you understand what to expect based on, where you're starting. And so we'll help you get started. The other thing is you can just go onto our website and everything is available to order online. So if you wanted to get set up with a subscription, we also have a 7-day free trial, which I really love for people because it just gives you an opportunity to think like, is this truly something I can do? We are looking for 15 minutes, 5 days a week. So it's a good way for you to see if your child and if you can get it going into a good routine because that's how the program is going to work. You do it once a week, every so often. That's just not enough to convince the brain we're looking for change. So we do want those consistent routines in place. But other than that, just go to advancedbrain.com or call us and we can absolutely assist you in getting started with it. As far as like what to expect, typically, as I was explaining, for a lot of kids on the spectrum, we're probably just going to want to do a 15-minute session, especially in the beginning, keep it a little, more simplified and calm. But within the first 2 or 3 weeks, we should expect to see some changes. So that would look like calmer, more focused, definitely a bit more responsible and more responsive to you. By the end of about the first month, we should actually start to see a reduction in sensory sensitivities or even over responsive. So if they're really responsive or seeking sensory input, we should see a bit more regulation. By around weeks 7 to 8, we start to see improvements in the ability to improve our language skills. So it might look like more verbal attempts. We might have more words. It could be more fluency, better articulation. And then towards the end of the program, we're looking for better thinking skills, learning attention, and really being able to think outside of the box so that we're willing to try new things, right? And even creativity. A lot of our listeners, by the end of the program, they start to want to express themselves through art or music. So some of those things that really show us that we're feeling safe and comfortable is our creativity. So those are some of the things you can be looking forward to.
Well, thank you so much, Mandy, for being here. I know that, as you know, I'm a huge fan of the listening program. It's been part of our lifestyle. It's not even, we don't think of it as a therapy anymore. This is just part of our life. Like it doesn't matter. My son loves it. He's going to love it for the rest of his life. And it's something that he's been doing since he was 2.5, and he's 22 now, which is crazy, right? And so it's just something that he asks for, requests. You can tell when he feels like he needs it, when he's having that moment where he's like alone. He'll tell me alone time, music, and like he will literally ask for that. And and I love that because it gives our families and the individuals with autism, it gives them some freedom of choice and something to choose, right? So we're giving them that coping mechanism or that tool in their tool belt. And so I've just been beyond grateful for you guys. And I still remember the first time I met you guys. Like it's like feels like yesterday, but it doesn't, but it does. For those families that are listening and watching though, and and I know what this feels like because I still feel this way at times. It doesn't matter if your kid's 2, 22, 52, it's your kiddo. I still know what this feels like. So if families are listening and watching, yes, we hear these great success stories. You might be sitting there going, well, that's not me. That's not me. And sometimes you feel helpless. Sometimes you feel hopeless. What words of encouragement do you want to leave with them today?
The biggest thing really is that we don't know what we're truly capable of, but we do know that if we provide our children with the right opportunities, with enough frequency and exposure to them, that it really does teach the brain what we're looking for. And so my biggest, I guess, sense of advice or piece of advice would be once you really decide that something is worth it, whether that is for your child to feel less stress, well, what is it that you can do that day to really be focused on that? I believe that if we have an intention and we put action behind that intention and do it consistently over time, the brain will respond and you're going to see all of your hard work come to fruition. I truly believe that. Just keep the hope, keep the consistency, and you'll see the fruit of all of your labors. And I know you're doing a great job. You're working hard, and just that's the biggest thing. Be consistent.
I love it. And I love keep the hope, guys. Just keep the hope. Thank you so much, Mandy, for being here.
Thank you, Kristen.
And thank you guys for watching. Until next time. Bye.